What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Experience More podcast. Pumped and excited to have each and every single one of you guys back here this week. I'm excited for this episode just because it's something I've really been digging deep into. But before I get into that, before I dive into it, we're gonna be talking about fatherhood. We're gonna be talking about just what overall masculinity, the really characteristic traits that I believe all men should go through and possess, and really break those things down, and ultimately what's happened to masculinity in men over the last 20-ish so, give or take, years, and kind of the revival that I believe is there, but it's ultimately going to take each and every one of us, and it's a big cornerstone within the Experience More podcast as a whole. But before we dive in to each and every aspect of that, I really just wanted to say thank you for each and every one of you guys being here. This podcast would not be anything without each and every one of you guys. Those of you guys who have given any sort of review on the podcast platforms, it is literally one of the only ways and the best way that you can just help build exposure within the Experience More podcast and just the mission and mindset as a whole, to everything you guys have done there with reviews. Those of you guys who've gone over and subscribed on the Overdose Outdoors YouTube channel, where really if I'm doing gear reviews, things of that nature, you're able to go to and check out as a whole as well. And just sharing it on social. Being able to build this podcast out, it is within me and just, I believe, a higher calling that I have to go out and create a bigger impact in the entire outdoor space, the outdoor community industry. I am very much called to that. That is what it's what keeps me up at fucking night. So, and just thinking about all the ways that I can do better and the actions that I need to take and the impact I want to be able to have for each and every one of you guys, solely based off of the stories that, I've been able to share, the relationships I've been able to build, the experiences I've been able to have with a good handful of those of you guys who do listen, as well as just the upbringing that I had with both of my younger brothers and the close-knit family that we have, from what I've learned from grandfather's father, and just that heritage and that lifestyle, and really that family bond as a whole. And I want to be able to pass that on to each and every one of you guys, because I believe I'm very, very blessed to be able to have grown up in the family that I have been. I know not everyone has that and has the ability to say that they had a phenomenal upbringing, even though parents got divorced, even though X, Y, and Z different things happen, and heads but in the long run, very, very fortunate and thankful for the life that I have been able to live thus far, and just want to be able to pass it on to each and every one of you guys. So if you find value in today's show, or any of the other shows, I appreciate those of you guys who have shared it, but then also have gone out and shared it with someone you think could impact as well, to get out there, experience more of the outdoors, or just experience more of life. So with that being said, welcome overall. But today's topic, and I've really been kind of racking my brain on this. I know last week I said I was going to go through and do an episode with Tina. I've found out that this is just the evolution of all of it, guys. I'm still trying to figure this do the podcast at home. Apparently I need a different setup, kind of Zoom recorders, and it's actually easier to do the remote, just because the guest that I bring on has their own computer. I have my own computer, and just the setup and system here. When it's in person, there is a lot of other variables that you ultimately don't think about in the moment. So I am going to be having Tina on. I got a couple other guests in the docket as well, that I'm excited to be able to kind of dive and tell their story as a whole, or be a part of them telling their story. I can't tell it. Everyone has their own unique story and their own look on it. So I look forward to those ultimately coming up. But until we can go through and get a good solid recording set with those, a couple of them I really want to do in person. And then there's a couple remote ones that we just have to find a specific time there. So I appreciate you sticking around for all that and being patient. This week, I'm not going to be putting out one with Tina and I, just as I had said for the Valentine's piece, but it will be coming. We got some good things planned. I actually talked to my brothers today, or my youngest brother, Zach, who's the helicopter pilot. up there in Wisconsin about hunting season this coming season, kind of planning out stuff for this later this fall. So some cool things to come along the line there. But I really wanted to kind of take this as an opportunity to dive in what I believe has kind of happened, man, with just men, like all the men that are ultimately out there. And I actually took down a handful of different notes and just writing some different things out as I was just kind of free writing, really, and just, different topics that I'm going to hit on. That's one thing. I've got a bunch of stuff I want to be able to hit on and talk on, and other individuals I want to be able to talk with. But this was one of the big ones that I wanted to be able to dive into. And with that, excuse me, I'm going to start with just 5 characteristic traits that I firmly believe all men should really be able to embody or equip themselves with. They're characteristic traits that you should be able to find in any good man ultimately out there. And I think of individuals in my life, the good men in my life, and I encourage you to think about those men that have created an impact in your life, where maybe some of these things fall. And there are things outside of this, and there's other things, outside, yay, nay, above or beyond what I ultimately hit here. But when I think of these 5 things, and I'm going to end up expanding on these, but they're really key 5 that I believe every man, like if you want to be a true, real man, like head of your household, provide for your family, these are the characteristic traits that I really look at. Number 1 is going to be resilience. You have to be a resilient individual for not just you, but for the benefit of every single individual around you. So number 1 is resilience. Number 2 is you have to have a sense of responsibility. Okay. You have to be able to take responsibility and accept that and as a characteristic trait, like no matter what is going on in your life, good or bad, you have to be able to embody that responsibility of, hey, if it's good, right? And give credit where credit is due. Be responsible for your actions, but also be responsible for those that are not able to lead, right? Or those individuals in your life that you have been put here or called to lead, right? You have to take that as a great sense of really responsibility. Like you have to be responsible for your actions and things out there. Number 2 is like you have to be able to like be present. And this is something that I have had to learn a lot more over the years. It's actually something that I believe has made me a better man, a better father. But there's things that allow you to be more present, right? And present in the moment, in your own thoughts, in your actions. Someone who is present is in control. Someone who is not able to be present in the moment and what's going on is out of control. It's like a leaf in the wind. Like it's out there, right? And there's moments where you have to be spontaneous and go and all in and just digging in on different things, but you have to be able to be present in what you are doing, okay? We'll go further into these things. Number 4 is discipline. This goes without being said. You have to be disciplined to the actions and things that you're setting forth. Like if you want your kids to be to grow up to do what you said they could do, aka every father or mother growing up in their life, when their kid is super little and young, they're like, you could grow up to be whatever you want to be. You can go up, be an astronaut, and go up and do this. And this is a big thing where I think parents have kind of lacked on, excuse me, is being the champion for your kids, for your family, for those in your life. You think back, I think literally years back, it didn't matter where you're at, like your upbringing, like if you were a good, solid parent, like it was helping develop the creativity, helping develop the vision and the mindset of young individuals. You can go out and be whatever it is you want to be. You want to go be a basketball star. You want to go out, be a fireman. You want to be a police officer. You want to do X, Y, and Z. Whatever it is, growing up, you should be the parent who is championing for your kids, for your significant other, for those around you, right? And the best way to champion for them is to champion for yourself. Something that, I look at myself and it's a constant reminder, but I look at every single high operating individual in my life, right? And the impact that they have on other individuals. They're ultra disciplined to what they do, the craft that they have, and the calling they are on. They're disciplined to the day-to-day tasks. I'm a firm believer that discipline can be applied in many different areas, but to get the absolute best result that is compounding time and time and time again is being disciplined to your overall health and wellness, to your own physical well-being. Because the truth is, you could look at individuals, just pick anyone that you ultimately look at, and you could say, oh, well, they're not super fit or healthy. Well, I can promise you that individual has been disciplined to their work, to their calling, to those things. But there will come a time, whether it is they realize that sooner or later, they will need to become disciplined to their own health and wellness, to their own physical well-being, or else they will cease to exist. Everyone, it depends on a stage of life. Most people don't go through and get super fit and healthy and start to take those actions until all of a sudden the doctors told them, if you don't make a change, you will die. And it's that drastic change. Now they have to be disciplined in those areas, and it might take them away from being disciplined in other areas. So I look at this as wherever you're at, doesn't matter if you're 10, 20, 50, 80, you can go out and be disciplined and making small little disciplined changes in your health and your overall just mindset of how you perceive yourself and look at yourself. You look at all these guys, individuals who are out there in the outdoor world, and even in just the overall, the social influence world, or the media world, comedian world. You look at, the jelly roll down 100 some pounds, right? You got guys like Cam Hanes, who's leading by example in the physical aspect. You look at, reason I say jelly roll is jelly roll wasn't healthy, but he was disciplined to his craft. And now he is becoming very disciplined towards the health, fitness, his diet, nutrition. He's having to relearn these different things, bring people along for the journey, because he realizes it is what's going to keep him around longer and doing the things he wants to be able to go through and do, right? So you have to be disciplined. And if there's one thing I could say is be disciplined early to bettering yourself. And the last one, number 5, is having a legacy-minded leadership. And this goes right back to really the presence piece. But I believe that every man, every father, anyone in that area should have or develop and work on. And this comes from that presence piece. And why I say it's helped me so much is we go 110 miles an hour. We live in a day and age where we got freaking things at our fingertips. We can order stuff literally tomorrow and have it show up maybe even in a few hours. We now have the influx of AI and digital workers and all these different things to where it's instant. Now, give it to me, right? Well, how often do we just sit in our own thoughts? It's a big reason why I love hunting, going out, sitting in a tree stand, or being on the side of a mountain and just glassing, or, just not doing anything, not talking. It's why, honestly, I love long road trips solo, to where I can just be in my own head, think, and and really not even think, but just be present with myself. And from there, develop that mindset of what do I want my life to stand for? It's a big reason why I gave up drinking alcohol. Not addicted or anything like that. I just, looked at it and looked at my life, a little bit prior to Aurora being born. And it's man, it's really not doing anything for me. And it's definitely never pushed me forward. It's never, I've never been in a better spot the next day because of it. Even times where going out and, thinking I was going to have fun out at the bar or different things like that, you can still have fun. I can still go out, have fun with friends, go out to the bar, did it out at the Western Hunt Expo this last year. I haven't drank for damn near 2 years and, gone to a lot of different events, had a lot of laughs and, felt really, really good throughout it. And it's one of those pieces where it's just a compounding effect to where that wouldn't have happened if I would have just been stuck in the rigmarole of trying to be caught up in the rat race, right? And it's not the legacy I want to leave. It's not the vision I have for my life, I have, excuse me, not the vision I have for my family and what I want to leave behind for my family. So I think if you can develop that legacy mindset and lead with that, utilize that to lead forward the bigger vision, and then just attack the process on a day-to-day basis of just being disciplined to that vision of who you see yourself, the life you see yourself leading, is just be that individual. Like literally, I would empower each and every one of you guys, envision the body you want, envision the individual. You can close your eyes like I'm closing my eyes right now. Like envision all of it. You open your eyes and then just simply think and ask yourself, what would that person do today? What action? How would he eat? How would he move? What would he do work-wise? How would he talk to people? How would they, plan their week? All these little things, just simply asking yourself those things can be a very, very powerful piece, right? Because, let's be real. Over the last 20 years, there has been a huge decline in just men, and this is my, again, opinions. I don't care where you are, what you're thinking, but just men being men, right? Like, I believe that fatherhood has ultimately declined. I believe that, there's been this toxic masculinity piece as a whole, and guys just feel like they're fucking walking on glass and eggshells, or eggshells is better them more than anything. Physical health and wellness has declined. You think about just all of it. As men, I believe that we are very simple-minded, one-track focus, and even how we interact and engage with each other, we are more detached. The brotherhood side of things is a very, very real, true, powerful piece, right? I heard this quote one time, and I can't remember who it was. If you know exactly where this quote came from, definitely drop it into the comments, and just I'd love to know, because I want to give credit where credit's due. But the quote went, "Women bond belly to belly," right? They bond face to face. They bond in the hugs. They need that bond, right? And very just, maternal kind of feeling, right? To where men bond shoulder to shoulder. They bond through the march, through the battle, through the forging of achieving the task at hand. You think about any men who have gone out, whether it's they're going to war, they're marching forward they have a common goal, a common enemy, and they are pushing forward to go make that shit happen. Think about hunting. I think about the trip that went with a handful of guys, even though we might have, struggled a little bit, or we had, some different opinions on how we were going to do things. We had the common goal that we were going to go out and we were executing to take down this animal, right? And we're going to do it any means possible, legally, but bonded throughout that entire period. And really the bond was built through that struggle. Same thing, building a house, building a deck, going out, getting a solid kick-ass workout in, right? The bond is built through that struggle because there is a mutual understanding of respect that happens through those different things. And that's where I think, a lot of this, And there's just been such a disconnect in different areas to where I think a lot of people have ultimately just been fucking confused. And the truth is, like, I look at this and think, fathers aren't sure how to be fathers, or, and I was homeschooled growing up. Like, I'm a firm believer that, if you're smarting off and you're being a little dickhead, like, you deserve the back end of a wooden spoon. Like, I've seen the back end of a wooden spoon, a fiberglass fence post. I've seen a belt. I've seen, and that's the kicker to this, I deserved every single one of those moments. Now you look at it, it's like, oh, parents and fathers are afraid to go out and have child services and all this shit. Like, that's the fucked up, messed up thing of all this. Like, you got parents afraid to parent, right? And to go out and properly discipline kids, because it's not an abuse thing. It is very much a deserved piece and a disciplined piece. No parent wants to go through, and ultimately any good parent, right? Because there is definitely a difference between abuse, like discipline and abuse. But I am all for disciplining your kids the right, correct way and taking corrective actions in it. You don't go through and just teach someone something by giving them a little pat on the hand and putting them in timeout. It doesn't solve the issue or the problem. Like, there needs to be something that is concrete, like, learned through that process. Again, my opinion. Agree, disagree, whatever you want to do. But I believe that we live in a day and age where it's like men are afraid to be men inside of the household, and ultimately looking where it's like this whole thing of like equal treatment and women's rights and all these things is like, yeah, guess what? You married your partner, and now you entered the greatest business partnership you could ultimately ever enter. Like, you bought into it, you went through, you signed a piece of paper, like you are legally bonded together on essentially the greatest business venture you'll ever go on. Well, each one of those, and this is where I think like parents need to go through and do is like, what is your job within the household? What are your duty? Like, what is it that you are, like, your roles, right? And I think there's a lot that are just super confused. And honestly, there's a lot of dads out there that, I've seen this. I've seen it walking through different stores and how people treat, like, they rule with an iron mouth and think yelling and shouting and telling them to do one thing just because they're dad versus actually leading by example. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with most households is you don't have parents, you don't have fathers leading by example. Not just leading for the kids, but leading for the spouse and being the role model, the provider. Because you think back years ago, like, I think men go through this identity crisis to where really men are there to be providers, to be protectors, to be that source of refuge for their home, right? And just make sure everyone's taken care of. You are there to protect and take care of that home and provide for that, right? And that's where I think, like, my wife and I both, like, we have our struggles, we have our in and out, but we have the conversations to where we are in a partnership, a relationship, not a dictatorship. Like, we have great discussions and we figure different things out, and I'm hard-headed and she's hard-headed, but guess what? Nothing happens if you just try and go through and you yell about it, and ultimately none of that kind of shit happens. Like, it doesn't go anywhere good, right? I think just we as men need to do better, one, at listening, right? We need to do better wholeheartedly at leading by example. Get your fat ass up off the couch and go be a good role model for your wife, right? Be a good role model for your kids. And that's like, everyone says happy wife, happy life. Well, like, you need to kind of flip that script a little bit and say, hey, happy dad, right? Ain't going to be mad. Like, however you want to go through and rhyme that or whatever you need to do. But, like, a fit dad will be like a flourishing family. Like, fit dad, flourishing family. We got to go through, we got to step up. As men, we have to be the individuals who are going to be the fathers, right? Not just a friend of our kids, but be the leader, be the solid post, the lighthouse for everyone in your family, is just being able to show up. You think about it, it's like I think a lot of men are afraid of the kind of backlash of like toxic masculinity and, what social media puts out there and what they hear on the news and all this. And all I have to say to all that is fuck all that noise. You are letting someone via social media, via another world that you are not even remotely close to, dictate how you run and operate as an individual. You are saying, or you are trying to appease them, make them feel less intimidated, make them feel, less inferior, right? That beta person needs to buck the fuck up and ultimately figure their own shit out. That's just the truth to all of it. Like, it is not your job to be more appeasing to them. Your job is to take care of your family. Your job is to provide your family, to protect your family, right? There is now a right and wrong way to go about it in the sense of how you treat people. Like, don't be a douche or be a dick to anyone and everyone ultimately around you. But like that whole being, toxic masculinity and all this other shit that's ultimately out there is like, that has not made like the world safer. It has made it weaker. It has made our country weaker. It has made the household weaker. It has not made anything safer. Like, show me a stat anywhere across the entire board since we have implemented this whole toxic masculinity and auditing people's, behaviors and all this different shit, or trying to essentially scare men, right, to go be less of a man. Like, it's asinine. It is truly, truly ridiculous. And if you are someone who is on the fence and really not sure to do it, is like, just understand, like, you got one role, like, and there's multiple roles in that role, but it's to be the leader of your household. And if you don't have a family yet, it's to be a leader of you. It is to be the individual who is setting you up, like your presence, your ability to go out and lead that family one day. And if it's not a physical family having like kids or things like that, to lead your team, to lead your coworkers. Like, go out and be that leader, that role model. It's not about being less masculine. It's like, we need to be less passive and more active and actually taking the initiative to go out there and be dangerous, right? And that's really where I look at this, like, man, and I can be biased for the fact that I was fortunate enough to grow up on a farm and do a lot of different things and I look at this as like, it's that saying, hard times make hard men, strong men. Well, those hard men make good times. Good times make weak men. And it's this whole cycle, in and out, in and out, in and out. Reality is like, as a father, your job is to go out and make sure that your kids discover life dangerously as safe as possible. And what I mean by that is give them the opportunities to learn through failure. Give them the opportunity to get bumps and bruises. Give them the opportunity to know that you are there for them and to support them. And that even though they will go out and try and fail, they have someone who is always there, rooting for them, pushing for them, not going to do it for them, but will catch them if they fall. And we have too many helicopter parents, too many dads, guys who are like, oh, I'll just do it for you. Like, no, let them learn. Let them fail. Don't let them get hurt, like maybe a bump or a bruise. Like, but let them do shit that's dangerous. Like, let them ride that line. They learn. I think about this like, man, I was driving a dump truck before I was 8 years old. I was plowing our driveway with a skid steer, probably seven or so years old. My dad literally took wooden blocks and wired them to the foot pedals in the skid steer. And I was not just driving no little freaking rinky-dink little skid steer. Like, this is the largest case skid steer that was on the market on the farm. I would go deliver and run round bales out to the cattle in the pasture. I would plow the driveway. And then I would get in the big old, when we went and did baling hay, I would run the big old flatbed, the dump truck that we turned into a flatbed. Dad would be running with the skid steer, and I'd be freaking leaning my whole body into this huge center console, semi-shift stick in the middle of the floor. Again, have to reach my whole body to try and push the clutch in and then reef back on this shifter to get this thing to go into gear, and then just get her to putt. And she was in granny gear low, but just get it to putt across the field, go get where Dad was at the next round bale. He'd put it on the trailer or on the truck, and then I'd get going to the next one. We'd stack up hay bales friggin' to the heavens on the back of that thing, and I'd be creeping it across the field, just following Dad all along. Like, he would give me opportunities to go out and be with him, be present, and do things that were outside of my comfort zone. One of my number one rule, like my jobs, and it was, I would either get my butt whooped or, get a good stern talking to. And really the lesson behind it, if I didn't, if I let the fire go out, like we had probably an 80 by 60 pole shed, and then the house down below with a barn. And the barn had a wood boiler heater in it, and we would fill the bottom of the barn with wood, and that's how we heated our entire house and shop, with in-floor heat all winter long, was with wood. And then we had wood stoves, like old school cast iron stoves inside the farmhouse and everything. But our entire house was heated with a wood boiler. And through the wintertime, like, that is what we heated our entire house with. We did not have gas or anything of that nature. And you needed to make sure that thing ran, because the last thing you wanted to go through was have either pipes break or freeze, or things ultimately go sideways. And if that fire went out, it took a lot more to go through and get the wood and everything fired back up. And again, I'm only 8, like, not very old, but that was like the work we did during the summers. We had to go in and we'd fill that barn up, and if we were out of wood, Nick and I would take the snowmobile, run down the creek bottom, and we'd fill that thing up with wood, cut it up, and run back up to the house. And that was our job, was to collect wood and to make sure we stayed warm, because that is how our entire house was heated, was by a wood stove, wood boiler. Not just the house, the shop, everything. But just made me do things, and didn't even really make me, but gave me the opportunity to go out and do it, to where it's like, I'll never forget. I was probably 10, maybe. Dad would probably know. This would be something good in the episode to do with Dad. But I remember, I'd go out. We had the combine. We farmed. It was about 418 acres of corn, soybean, and then we had the beef cattle, which we switched over to elk later on. But I love farming. Love tilling crops. I love being able to look behind me and watching the earth turn over and just see the progress being made as I'm tilling the land. And then I also love the harvest part of it, to be able to see, like, as we're collecting the new harvest. Dad hated collecting beans because he had very, very bad allergies. So he loved it when I had the opportunity to go through and start doing the beans. I not only ran the combine there, but then I got hired on to the neighbor's farm, where they had much bigger tractors. They had frickin' all, like, 4-steer, some of the nicest John Deere tractors, and $100,000 tractors and combines. I was the youngest kid on the entire fleet and crew to ultimately go through and be hired on to run these different pieces of equipment, because Gary, who owned it, was like essentially my dad's unofficial brother, one of them, Gary and Joe. But Gary, he liked me working for him because I never brought his stuff back with scratches on it. Like, I took care of it, respected it. But that was because Dad made sure that I respected what we had and what we worked for. And there was one year when Dad went to work, because he was a chiropractor by trade, and his work was about 45 minutes away from where our farm was. And I was like, I'm going to go through and start combining, and the main hub on the back of the combine, the steering wheel, because on a combine you have the big drive tires up front because you have the big head, and then the tires that steer a combine are actually the two tires on the back, and it turns it that way. So you got two smaller ones in the back because the weight's really not there. And one of the main bearings went out on one of those tires and ultimately tipped sideways. The rear tire went out, and by the time Dad got back from work, I had the entire combine, again, 9 or 8 years old. I had the entire combine jacked up in the middle of the field with the tire off, pulled off so Dad could, help. Like I got very good at just figuring shit out. And it's honestly like really taught me to who I am today is like, it's just figure out the problem, solve the problem, make it happen. We ain't paying no one to go through and do this. But it's because he put me in stressful situations to where I didn't have to ask him. I would just start doing it. And then by the time he got done with work, we could go buy a new bearing to put it in and ultimately get things rocking and rolling. So gave me a lot of confidence in just being able to take things apart, put them back together, and figure different shit out. So, and the reason I bring all that stuff up, that is a masculine trait to take ownership in what you are, like the task that has been given to you. And it's okay to be steadfast in what you believe in and tell someone to fuck off or tell them that they are wrong. It is okay to believe in what you believe in and other people believe in what they believe in. Like, I will always run, and you guys will know this, like, I'm very confident and secure with who I am, and what I believe in, to where really no one can sway me in that piece, because I don't need to be super mad or frustrated. Like, it takes a lot to get me mad. It takes a lot to really piss me off or ruffle me up. And really the only time that is like if someone's going through and ultimately disrespecting someone in my family or doing something they shouldn't be doing in the sense of either illegally or at the demise of someone else for the betterment of themselves. I'm a firm believer, and that is just something that has been built in me to where it's you stand up for those who cannot stand up, and don't ever worry about sticking your head above the crowd. You will get shot at, but it just teaches you to move. And that is what most people won't do. They will just sit in the crowd and hide amongst the crowd. You have to be okay with sticking your head above the crowd. You have to be okay with going out there and standing up for who's not going to stand up, or speak up for who's not going to speak up, and be that individual who does that. You don't go looking for a fight. Like, in any means, I can count on my hand. I can count on literally 2 fingers how many total fights I've ever been in. I should say been in a good handful of them. But I've always been able to go through and diminish them. I've only had to throw hands twice. We'll say that. I'm not afraid to throw hands. I don't think it needs to be done all the time. And I think a lot of times most scenarios can be handled, and it ultimately takes a bigger man to walk away from a situation. I ain't got nothing to prove other than proving to myself what I'm truly capable of. And that, like, I think that is, you don't have to be afraid of the individual who's ultimately talking their head off inside of the crowd or the room. You got to be afraid of the individual who's quiet, who stands back and observes. And I think there's a lot of power inside of that. It's that whole saying of like, I'd rather be an assassin or a warrior in a garden than a garden in a war. Like, I would rather be able to do great harm to individuals and have such power over scenarios and situations, but also because I have the ability to do that and I know I am capable of those things, it gives me a great sense of peace, honestly. I think most people live their life where they're almost afraid, and they're like a garden in a war, to where it's like they just don't know when the next explosion is going to happen. They don't know when it's going to come across their fence. But if you're ready and you know you can go through and handle some shit, then you're fine. Point blank. And this goes in into an aspect, I believe men have been removed from the outdoor space or their, like natural calling to be able to provide. And that is at the core essence of all of it, really comes down to providing through the harvest of the food you eat. Like going out, hunting, gathering, collecting, doing those things, putting down an animal, being able to put food on your table. We've become very lazy. And like I love different, conveniences just as much as the next individual. But the truth is, like, when shit hit the fan during COVID and everyone's stressing about toilet paper and all this different shit, I can guarantee you, and I know those of you guys who are listening probably going to chuckle a little bit, but every individual out there who is a hunter, who knows how to go through and handle themselves in the wild, was probably over here chuckling a little bit. Like, well, I don't need to go to the grocery store. I got a freezer full of wild game. I know how to go through and provide for myself. I know how to go through and do a garden, make sure water is purified. I know how to survive in the elements. I would guarantee that any of my guys and girls out there who have the background of hunting and going out and being in the middle of nowhere probably had a great sense of security. Like, yeah, it's not sure really what's going on and people can do some stupid things here and there, but as far as being able to provide for your family and taking care, I'm sure you felt pretty good, because I know I did. Tina was freaking out a little bit, right? But she's also never hunted. And that's a big reason why I want her to go out hunting. And that's why, we will continue to do that and get her more and more involved in that. Now she can garden, she can take care of the chickens, she can do all this stuff, and she knows and she can and does all these things. So she feels really good there. But there is something to be said in knowing that you can take a life, and at the bare minimum, that life is going to be able to provide for your family. I think that is something that has happened in the years back in the day. Like, you went out and hunted and provided. There were a lot more. There were a lot more farms. There were a lot more farmers. There were farm families that learned how to do these things. Now we have a huge decline in the amount of small farm families. We have a large decline over the years of just individuals who hunt or, have not got introduced to hunting. And like, there's a lot of this stuff that ultimately, yeah, you can grow garden and you can do this rooftop stuff and all these different things and hydroponic plants and all that shit. You need to be able to put protein in the freezer. Deer are abundant. Wild game is abundant. And there are reasons we have seasons and everything to be able to go through and manage those different things. But there's an abundance of resources out there. But you have to be okay with going out there and doing that. And I can put money on the fact that if we had more people doing that, more individuals, more guys getting out in the woods to where they feel comfortable and secure in what they are doing and how they handle themselves, we'll be in a better world. It just, I believe it wholeheartedly. And you tie that with physical fitness and going down just all kind of the things I talked about before, like that is another thing that ultimately has declined, is men have become a big fucking sack of potatoes. The mass majority of individuals who are out there, like, and we look at it as like, oh, we have this huge obesity crisis, right? Throughout the entire country. It all starts with the fucking household. It starts with the father. It starts with you. If you are better, your kids will be better. If you are eating like an asshole, I can guarantee you, your kids will eat like assholes. If you eat like an asshole, and I'm talking to the dads, I'm talking to the men of the households. If you eat like an asshole, if you drink like an asshole, if you work out, if you don't work out, if you don't take yourself seriously, no one else will. Look around. If your wife's overweight, if your kids are overweight, if either of them are unhealthy, before you go through and start pointing the finger and ultimately making all the excuses out there, look hard in the fucking mirror. What are you doing? What have you done? Because the easy cop-out way, the bitch way, is just be like, well, I'm telling them they have to do that. I'm the dad. They just got to do what I say. Bullshit. You're a lazy piece of shit with a lazy mindset and a very weak mindset. All of the physical fitness piece, and I think of our like who we are as a community, as a country, as just a whole, it all comes right back to the household. Comes back to the individuals, comes back to the men. You can tie it, like it ties in there. But I mean, and I will, like, I'm sure someone's going to chirp and say all sorts of shit. Like at the end of the day too, like women, it is on you as well. Someone in that household has to be the leader. When I think about it, it's like to be a great leader, you also need to know when to follow. So I ask the women and I ask the men, are you encouraging your significant other to be a healthier version of themselves? Are you helping them discover the best version of themselves? Are you being the best role model both of you guys can be to your kids, to anyone? You don't have to have kids, but if we want to be able to see the world as a better place and ultimately get back on track, like men, it takes us stepping up and being the role model. I guarantee you start taking action and quit being a little piece of shit. Like that is when you'll start to see your life become better. You will start to see all the things ultimately start to fall into place. But you can't do it because of you think that's what's going to happen. You just got to do it in the fact like, I need to make myself better. If you are better, other things will change in a positive way. It is just, I guarantee it. There's no questions asked. Everything gets better if you take care of yourself physically. You go out and you apply yourself. You're like, to those points that I had earlier, you are disciplined to what you go through and do. You have to. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to say to just close this out, guys, I'll recap on those 5 things I talked about, is we need more men who are willing to be dangerous, but have the self-control of that power. They're okay, and they're fully capable of taking life, but they understand the value of life. They understand the preservation of your family. You understand the preservation of your legacy, that every day, what we do on a day-to-day basis, the actions you take, that is a compounding effect to the legacy you will live. It goes right back into those 5 things, those 5 characteristic traits I believe every man should embody and ultimately live out in one way, shape, or form, because we can go so much deeper into every single one of them. And that is number 1, you have to be resilient. Resiliency is 0 questions asked, one of the most important things, because if you are not resilient, when shit gets hard, like, you have to be able to weather the storm. You cannot run from the storm. You have to weather the storm. You have to stay steadfast and not only be the lighthouse to help direct everyone else in the middle of the storm, you have to be built strong enough to withstand every fucking hurricane that comes your way. Because if you fall, there is no one else to go out and direct anyone else to come ashore. Gone. You have to be resilient and stay strong and true and lit throughout all of it. Even on the days, the times, the weeks, the months when you don't want to, especially when you don't, have to be resilient. You have to be responsible. It's number 2. Stay responsible for who you are and those you surround yourself with. If you can continue to be present with your individual, like your family and those you surround yourself with, no questions asked, you're going to go through it. And let's just be real, because there's, all these different things that happen over social media. Dude, guys, dads, like, quit listening to little fucking, like, twiglet hipster individual who's walking, rubbing their toes in the grass and telling you how to live. And you need to be this and that and all these things and, just feel the vibes. Like, you got so many men, individuals out there saying that they have, mental health issues and all this other stuff. Here's the truth to all of it, because I've been in some deep, dark shit. You want to know what helped? When I actually went through and started taking care of myself. When I got off the fucking couch, when I went through and started breaking a sweat, started carrying weight. Like, you as a man were not meant to sit on a couch. You were meant to carry weight mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, you were made to carry that weight. How you carry it is directly correlated to how you train. You are not meant to be on the couch, but the mass majority of individuals who are out there are looking at leading the lazy, super sedentary, fucking playboy lifestyle. You don't need the therapy. You need to break a sweat, carry some weight, move some load. You start doing that, because I can speak from personal experience. The days leading up after you have committed to just showing up for yourself on a day-to-day basis, you will see a drastic change in who you are and have aha moments. And at that moment, you can come back here and say, man, thanks, Jake. I really appreciate that. Because I'll tell you, from an individual who's been at the end of a fucking gravel road, holding his 9, ready to end it all, and only here because he had a younger brother give him a call. I had a guardian angel watching out for me. And I was lost in a spot in my life where I was trying to go through and make every single other person happy. And I had lost myself through toxic relationships of trying to appease everyone else and letting my entire self go to where I didn't even recognize who I was. I made working out a second job. I dedicated hours to making me a better individual because I said I will never let anyone have this much control over myself. I will never let anyone have more control over me than I have of myself. No one. Not parents, not any bit of family, not significant others, no one. If you're not in control because you haven't been in control for a very long time, and you being in control is simply by going out and taking action on the small little promise you said you were going to do yesterday. Do it today. The more you can go out and do that, the more you can be proactive in making yourself dangerous, making yourself value, is simply by the actions you take on a day-to-day basis. Because the truth is, a dangerous man who is under control, that's an individual who protects, and that's an individual who provides. And that's what your family needs. I love you guys. Appreciate each and every one of you being here, being a part of the podcast. Honestly, couldn't do it without you. The entire point of the Experience More podcast is help individuals get out, live a life, experience more of the great outdoors, experience more of life with those you love to experience it with. And I will put a huge, big emphasis on the fact, we're here to go out and create a bigger impact in all the men that are out there and all the families that are out there, and just create an impact and a brotherhood and a sisterhood and bring people together, because at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us being better individuals ourselves and leading by example for our households to create the impact we want to see happen in the outdoor space. If we want to go out and create an impact in the outdoor space, the outdoor community, the industry, it all comes down to how we take care of ourselves and run our household. That's just the truth of it. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to care about other people. We're not going to be focusing on helping them. We're going to end up tearing each other apart and all this other bullshit. The impact that we will have long term is directly going to be correlated to the impact we have on ourselves. So if you guys like the show, share it with someone, leave a review. Love each and every one of you guys. We'll see you next week.